my colleague, member for Ikaroa Rāwhiti, who has stated that Labour will support this bill to the first reading and referral to Select Committee. We have some questions and some reservations, which may or may not be answered at that point. Wee Pere was a Member of Parliament, as members before me have highlighted, who served in this House in 1884 to 1887, then from 1893 to 1905. We have some questions of the Minister which we think deserve clarification once it gets to Select Committee. Like, for example, much of the intent of this bill could have been dealt with within the changes that are anticipated with the Ture Whenua Māori Act. Why is he preceding that decision or that ability to take up that pathway by having this bill go through the House? The other question is one of a substantive nature around the change in classification of land. I took some time to look in the history of the establishment of the Trust, and probably the what comes forth to me is that this was a very innovative way of looking at collective Māori land ownership under the laws of the time. Wee Pere and his whānau, he encouraged all his whānau to transfer all their estates and form a trust under the Native Land Laws Amendment Act of 1897. Now that, at the time, I believe, would have been quite a radical concept to get everybody to collectivise with the specific purpose of collectivising the utilisation of the land and therefore the way in which they were going to look at improving the productivity of that land. There was a trustee, only one trustee appointed at the time, and they were to be free from any interference of the beneficiaries of that particular land. Again, a very innovative and interesting establishment. Now, reading through some of the history, it's checkered with regards to how that land was managed in a freehold title. I think Walter George Faster of Wellington was the first trustee, and it's interesting to track the way in which that estate was utilised. I suspect much for the benefit of the Wee Pere descendants, but with a very chequered history. The reason why I draw the attention of the House to that is that in its inception of the Trust, there was a transference or some sense of collectivising interests under an individual native land tenure system. So the point that my colleague Mika Whaitiri makes with regards to the inherent collective aspects of having land held under the Ture Whenua Māori, I think still applies, and it's a valid question. The other point I wanted to draw the attention of the House to is more in the present day. Looking at the website, the trustees are, the estate is being managed well. It's valued at approximately in 2003, 35.7 million, and it has a number of commercial interests that are within its operations. That said, it's really important that the beneficiaries of the Wee Pere Trust are able to influence the decision-making, the governance decision-making of that particular entity. Again, insofar as the collective aspiration and the opportunities generated off the Wee Pere Trust, I would think that the Select Committee will pursue this with some vigour to ensure that there was a widespread consultation with beneficiaries around what is being tried to be achieved under this particular bill. If it has been indeed the case that beneficiaries haven't been well consulted, or that the new terms and conditions of the trustees haven't been widely publicised amongst the beneficiary group, I think that would raise some concern for the Select Committee, but we'd have ample time through the submission process to pursue questions. The changes that are proposed in the bill increase the number of trustees. My apologies. The changes in the bill propose to renew the governance structure. There is some merit in that. In fact, it's happening in other trusts as we speak. And there are opportunities to ensure that I think greater leveraging of from the estate can occur. Mr. Speaker, can I just identify with regards to the matter that the Minister raised around who has a beneficial interest. It's certainly my view that the way in which the Wēpere Trust has been specific about who holds a beneficial interest is useful when we're looking at changes that impact on trusts of this kind, and it's useful that we reaffirm that this was always the intent from its inception, to the various refinements and abilities of the trust to operate within its contemporary context. The reason why I make mention of that is that a number of Māori members will have experienced in one way or another a range of emotional types of situations where spouses and adopted children have had such a close connection with whenua that they've been living on, raised in, but it belongs to their spouse by whakapapa, and when their spouse dies, they have literally no ability to continue that relationship because it's only for their lifetime interest. And I have had one case that comes to mind which was particularly emotive, and it pulled at my conscience to say, should something be done here? I lean on the whakapapa connections that people all in this house have to their lands, and actually it's probably landing in the right place. Blood kin relationships to whenua tupu must be retained at all costs, and that any weakening of those connections can fundamentally break down your kin connection to the area and your ability to be able to continue to I think, invest back in your whenua tupu. So the Minister makes some good points. I'm looking forward to this particular bill coming to Select Committee and the ability to ask submitters questions. I've highlighted a number. Were beneficiaries consulted widely on the change in the trust deed and the provisions of this particular bill? Why is it that the Minister introduced this bill in advance of pending changes to Te Whenua Māori? What ways does the Wēpere Trust envisage that this will help advance their economic opportunities as well as their social opportunities? I note that they fund, along with the distributions to shareholding beneficiaries, they also fund education grants, tangi grants, and are engaged in a number of social activities as well. I didn't want to spend too much time on this first reading of the bill, as I know that the Select Committee is an important part of the process. I'm hoping that the Minister at some point, or a member of the Māori Party, might get up and let us know when the Te Whenua Māori amendments will be introduced into the House. That will be a robust debate. It's an important debate to be held, but for the time being, I support this bill going to the Māori Affairs Select Committee.